Hey again. Okay, so I guess I want to discuss a couple things regarding our value as women and also the confusion around said value. The things that we learned about as little girls watching Disney movies, and how worth, value, finances, and romance might all kind of tie into that and contribute, and how that might all cause harm in some regard or good in other regards. So I'm still assessing for myself on the matter. How much of it have I gotten right and how much of it have I gotten wrong? So this video is to kind of record keep and journal vlog my experience, and let it be like a statistical addition to any other woman out there who might be going through something similar with similar thoughts. And I just, again, I feel like as my videos are developing, I'm just trying to stay away from any Instagram algorithm rhetoric of a kind of lecture or a simple solution to a very complex problem regarding love and romance, worth, vitality, and living a good life as a woman. So when I'm on Instagram, and goodness knows my Instagram is full of self-help everything and spiritual, divine feminine, divine masculine, everything, I still find myself with pretty much the same core problem that I've had all my life. And there is no one fix or one video. I mean, yeah, it's like, since these videos have been popping up on my feed, and as we're all collectively addressing these issues, my patterns in dating have become better. They have become better. But there's nothing like launching me into alignment than facing real life painful consequences. I mean, tremendously painful consequences. I can't even tell you enough how much pain I've endured as a female in this world. So, okay. I'm reading this like Codependency Anonymous pamphlet. I've spoken to in recent months 1, 2, 3, 4 different therapists / like life coaches, all of which I bought a package deal of sessions to learn from them and what they could say or do to help improve my life or my trajectory. One of these coaches suggested that I might be codependent, which at first it infuriated me that was suggested to me, because I feel like in all my relationships I have fought tooth and nail for natural, organic, healthy interdependence. I have parents who are still together, and they definitely have a traditional masculine feminine role in that household till this day, and that's what I grew up with. So for someone to tell me that I might be codependent was really infuriating, because I'm like, no, I just want a slightly more progressive take on what's worked for my parents. And I know the complaints that my dad had, I know the complaints that my mom had in a marriage, and I wanted to take by example what has worked for them and what hasn't. In any case, the way my parents raised me was to expect to get married, and that a guy will fall in love with you and he'll just simply take care of you. And your job is to be like your feminine, gorgeous self. So this is, of course, a lot easier with a guy who is of means. So my mother would tell me, marry someone who has money and marry someone who's intelligent. Not that my father didn't have money, didn't have intelligence, he just didn't have money or intelligence as needed to be successful in the United States because he was an immigrant. So, okay. Without putting on the internet, my dad's story, I'll just try to keep it in myself. Point being, I'm reading this codependent thing, and I'm like, okay, well, I think this could apply to a lot of people that grow up like me. When you grow up in an immigrant family, particularly like a Slavic family, you're raised to be like a good girl, good little girl, polite, sweet, demure, and that's how I know myself to always be. I don't know myself to have aggression, and then that aggression comes out in a relationship when I feel used or overlooked or belittled or talked over. And that aggression comes out like tenfold, perhaps, because it's like untapped aggression otherwise. Most of my life has been about survival. So, if you're looking for videos on people who get out of survival mode, this is not a video for you. I'm very much in the thick of it and more or less complaining about it. But I have watched, countless hours in videos on poverty mindset, getting out of survival mode, tapping into your femininity, all of this. I cannot emphasize enough how vulnerable I feel in this world as it currently is, and with all the confusion that is for what system should take place for men and women to live harmoniously. Now let's talk about how a woman can live harmoniously, just independent of any man. Because I've had to leave and end relationships or allow to have been left, right, by men that either financially or emotionally did not have capacity to take care of me. And so it's like, well, do I opt for like living under the bridge if worse comes to worse? Like that's kind of like the saying that like I grew up with like hearing my mom. It's like if I have to live under a bridge, I'd rather do that than live with someone who is an oppressor, for example, or a tyrant, or just disrespectful. So it's kind of come to that in recent months where money has been a really big issue. Like it always has been, but I date men who are financially equipped to help me, take care of me, look out for my best interests financially as I navigate a world where I can kind of gain not just my independence, but I feel like the prerequisites that I'm trying to achieve before my independence, so that my independence is as enjoyable as possible. The prerequisites I'm trying to find are passion and purpose and routine. That way I'm not picking things or making decisions for jobs out of the survival mode, as all these gurus online are suggesting to get out of survival mode. So I've been incredibly lucky to meet both good men and not so good men, whom for the most part have been pretty financially generous with me. And of course the finances aren't enough to sustain a relationship that isn't otherwise emotionally healthy. And I thought with each of my relationships, hoping that it would lead to marriage, that the relationship would be stable enough and the income I would get from my partner would be stable enough that I could take a breather and integrate myself naturally and organically to a routine that speaks to me. But with every chapter and every relationship and every lesson, it's been anything but stable and peaceful for a long enough period of time. So the irony, while trying to find my independence while being in a relationship, that sounds like a paradox. But in attachment theory, like, they talk about this all the time where, you know, when you're a kid, I know I'm not a kid anymore, but when a child is with a mother and they're sent to go play in a kind of playground or sandbox or playroom, the child always turns back to their mother to help regulate their nervous system before they go out and play again. So the idea here is that children actually come to greater independence knowing that someone is in their corner. So then they take more brave decisions to keep exploring further and keep exploring further. Like, I'm not really sure like what happened in my life quite exactly, that never developed in me in my childhood. So I seek it out in my relationships. I seek out an anchor, a stable masculine man in my corner to provide a container and safety, and also just like the option for me to like venture out and find this voice of mine without me having to have the stress of suppressing my voice or manipulating my voice to appease a boss or employer, or forcing myself to be in a situation just to get money for food and rent and for basic living expenses. Seeking out this comfort from a male has not been successful for me. And I've tried everything. I've tried to, everything that a woman through her 20s would think to equip herself to be a very desirable partner and worthy of someone's love and care. And nothing I'd done to improve myself visually, sexually, emotionally, spiritually had invited a man into my life that wanted to supply care and safety for the long term. Okay, so I'll just do it without a man, right? And I'm realizing my vulnerability immensely. That I'm not really sure what job or vocation to even start with. Like, what would be my first steps, or would I go? Like, I've gotten to know myself well enough to know what I like, but I can't afford what I like to do. And what I like to do doesn't earn money, really. To keep a home clean and beautiful, to go dancing, to, I don't know, add to the atmosphere, I suppose, with beauty and grace. And I don't know, I like just these soft skills that I naturally do, that I naturally enjoy, making people laugh, comforting somebody. There's no like one job that encapsulates like all these skills and then I can get paid for it. So in an effort to find a better way to make money that does not involve me having to be put under pressure, or to work for somebody that I don't like, or to work for a system that I don't like. I don't know. So I'm reading my codependency book, because apparently, like, I don't know, like, on one hand, I can see someone watching this video and saying, well, that's just how the cookie crumbles, sweetie. Like, go out and get a job like everyone else. And then there's the other rhetoric, which is like, do what you're passionate about, do what you love. Well, I don't have access to the things I love on my salary currently. I could in little ways, but it's not sustainable. And also the pressure that social media puts on you to achieve a certain image. That's not just about appearances. It's about being a walking, talking, breathing, epitomizing being of beauty and vitality. Which, I don't know what woman doesn't want that in her own way. I think every woman wants to flourish and open up her flower petals and be this healthy, vibrant being. So not everyone gets to have that, and I'm trying to achieve that for myself somehow. So some interesting lines from my codependency pamphlet. I've underlined a couple of things, and it says here, we begin by redefining our codependency. At an emotional level, we need to overcome the childhood trauma that drove our authentic selves into hiding in order to survive. And how many times have my authentic self has gone into hiding in order to survive, in order to appease other people's emotions? That I needed to appease other people's emotions from the get for as long as I could remember. So my authentic self, the part of me that's enthusiastic or even a little aggressive or annoyed, or any part of me that's actually negative, right? Any part of me that can be negative but is a true part of me was not tolerated or accepted or welcomed. Only the part that appeases. It's very telling. Okay, so it says, and by the way, for comparatively, I have great parents. Not perfect, but great parents. They love me a lot. Like, maybe they didn't realize what they were doing in the process of loving me, that some things were unhelpful. But it's just crazy to me to think that, like, someone like me can be so messed up, even still having loving parents. Next thing I underline, we come to realize that we were groomed to meet their needs. Some of us took on the shame of our caregivers, including myriad feelings of disgust towards our bodies and bodily functions. By opening our hearts, we begin the process, this time moving from self-contempt to compassion for ourselves. So, and one more line. Codependence Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women whose common purpose is to develop healthy and loving relationships with ourselves, our higher power, and others. The only requirement for membership is a desire for healthy and loving relationships. I'm having a lot of trouble discerning codependency from interdependency. I feel like I've come into my relationships pretty forthright about my limitations, my vulnerabilities, my expectations, what's negotiable, what's not negotiable, and where I'm still willing to grow. And I guess perhaps I've kept things around for too long a time, trying to plead and teach. Maybe that's the codependent part, where I feel like I'm having to teach my partner how to have effective communication, despite our disagreements, perhaps. But it's true in the sense that I highly depend on a partner, a male partner, to want to be with me in the first place, and all that encompasses being with me. All that, everything that it might mean or encompass or be about, taking me on whole. And I've had trouble taking on my other partners fully because maybe their behaviors or actions I perceive as a threat. Like if they have hobbies or habits or vices that are not within their best interest. And I see how lack of regulation my partner might have because maybe they smoke too much weed, or they're playing video games to take off some stress, or they're taking advice from their male peers who have the same issues that they themselves have. And the worst is like when you give like a piece of advice to your partner that they don't take seriously, but then they hear it from their male peers and they take it seriously. So that makes me feel pretty useless. And I rely, and because I have this financial problem, right? And like, I want to be feminine, I want to submit, but I can't do it for a guy who's super dysregulated and not easy to talk to, and who can't be candid with me about his limitations and what that might mean for the relationship. Also, a guy's like inability to understand my limitations, or where I have limited capacity, where I max out with energy and resource and vitality. They just kind of seem to project onto me what they would like me to be. And I'm trying to not be guilty of the same thing, where I'm not trying to project onto them the potential I see in them if only they tweaked a few things about their habits or their routines. I feel like I'm desperately grasping for a sense of aliveness and vitality that comes more naturally to a man because he has testosterone every morning. So the codependency. Am I codependent because I stay too long with a man who's not willing to evolve and I'm trying to teach him through the process? Am I codependent because I am not financially independent, which also is a reason why I stay too long in a relationship, because I fear how I'm going to make it out in this world independent of a man? And I see the videos online of women who are like, I have all this masculine energy and I'm tired and I'm burnt out, and they're crying, and I'm like, oh my god. Oh my god, it looks like a nightmare out there. So like, waiting around for someone to rescue me isn't an option. Tapping into my masculine energy might result in a crash out and a burnout. Being too financially independent means that I will be now too inherently in competition with someone. Just by way, because I make more money than them, then now it's like they feel less worthy, right? So I'm like, I feel pretty cornered. And I'm like, man, I just want to be myself. And if I have to be myself on a low income and pretend like everything's fine and I'm pampered and I'm well taken care of and make that appear as it is, even though I'm struggling, like, oh my God. Because if I wear on my sleeve that I'm struggling, then it's not attractive. So like, you would not have wanted to have seen me how I looked this morning. As I'm ascertaining all of this, assessing all of this. I had a panic attack earlier, and I used to take clonazepam, I think is a medicine. I don't know. I had therapy years ago where they gave me medicine for these panic attacks. I've been sober for years now, so I just was one with the panic attack. And then once it was over, I felt kind of high because like I don't know what happens in someone's brain chemistry, but everything just kind of zen, like it just zens out naturally. I'm like, okay, panic attack is gone. I got through it. Now I'm here. But you would not have wanted to, like, in my mind, a man would not have wanted to have seen me in that state because it makes me look emotionally unstable. But I'm not. I'm just scared for the moment. And then I went in and put on my curls and put a little mascara on. And that's it. Moving on. Moving forward. But even like this little bit that I've done to make myself look nice, it's not even the fullness of what I can do to make myself present more beautifully. There are so many other things I would do to nourish myself currently that I cannot do. And even so, I feel like a little resentful that if someone found me attractive now, I'd feel a little resentful because you don't know what I'm going through mentally, emotionally, spiritually. You only like me kind of toughening up and going through it and making myself look attractive anyway. But I don't want to be loved for being tough. I want to be seen for all my vulnerabilities. And I think that's like what the divine feminine aches for. And I think that's what a man wants too. I think a man wants to be accepted for his vulnerabilities. But like, that was the case in a couple of my relationships. I could accept them for their vulnerabilities. In fact, I love them for their vulnerable side as well. But I don't want to enable these vulnerabilities when I see that there's so much potential of what they could access that I myself struggle to access, but I feel like it would come to them more easily simply by way of being a man. Anyway, so if anyone else is thinking about this and also like burdened by it and confused, you're not alone. And this is like, I guess, like the modern feminine message of today, currently. And one example of perhaps many. Have a good week.